We own the science and
We own the science. That's beautiful. Does anybody truly own the science, or can you only try to control the science? I don't know. I've got a lot of questions to ask. Not many answers, but a lot of questions for today's video. But first, welcome back to the JP Reacts channel. Today, we're going to explore some questions because, we like to call out lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants, amongst other things. And I don't know if this is corruption or earnest thought of people believing they can control the science and own it. So this clip, we're going to watch more of it, but this is Melissa Fleming. She is the UN's Undersecretary General of Global Communications. Quite the title. And here she's speaking at the World Economic Forum, our good friends in Davos. We love it. And this is during a panel discussion on tackling disinformation. And this video comes from an article on reclaimthenet.org entitled UN tells World Economic Forum how it partners with tech platforms to control the narrative. We're going to say more, but first, let's take a look at this short 42-second video of Melissa Fleming of the United Nations talking at the World Economic Forum.
we partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it, and the platforms themselves also do. But again, it's a huge challenge that I think all sectors of society need to be very active in.
Now, the first question I have is science something you can actually own? And I ask that sincerely because the way my mind thinks about science is it's something ever evolving, and our comprehension of it is something ever evolving. And with that point of view, how can you own something that you're continually trying to grasp? Can you own gravity? Can you own the mysteries of the universe? Can you own quantum string theory when in fact you can't even comprehend the entirety of quantum string theory? So I ask these questions because I think another question that deserves to be asked is, if you can't own science, why in fact are you saying you own science? What could be their motive? Is their motive to actually own the narrative and controlling, not owning, but controlling the science being a part of how they control the narrative? I don't know, but these are valid questions that come up in my mind here as the United Nations is claiming they own the science and they're working with tech platforms to control the narrative. Now, my suspicions are raised, certainly, first off, in the same conversation where they're claiming to own science, they're also talking about how important it is for them to work with tech platforms to control the narrative. So is this about science at all? Or is science, the use of that term, just a pawn in being better able to control people's minds to adopt their narrative? Just asking questions. So let's take a look at some of the info on this article on reclaimthenet.org. The World Economic Forum held Sustainable Development Impact Meetings. Any title of a meeting the World Economic Forum has, it's so ambiguous. It's cool, you use nice sounding words, how you titled that add up to mean nothing. What do you actually mean here? You're just sounding fancy, but what are you actually doing? Where unelected groups held a Tackling Disinformation panel with participants including the United Nations, Brown University, even CNN. They want to tackle disinformation so they can use it. The panel discussed how to best control narratives on issues like climate change and The UN's Undersecretary General for Global Communications, Melissa Fleming, the lovely gal you saw in the video, noted that the UN had partnered with big tech companies, including Google and TikTok, to control narratives surrounding our favorite virus and climate change. Why do they want to control narratives? If we give them the benefit of the doubt that they don't want to control narratives as a way of controlling people, though that might be a valid question, but why else would they want to control narratives? Why not allow people's minds to control their ingestion of information and allow themselves to decide what's true for them? Do we need thought police to control what goes into people's minds? Argo goes on to reiterate her words. We own the science and we think the world should know it. And the platforms themselves also do, she said. We own the science. It's kind of like saying we're not open to any further understanding of science other than what we're willing to currently accept as true. The earth is flat. Don't tell us the earth is round. We say the earth is flat. We own that science. Like, well, yeah, but there's more to it. We don't care. We own this science, and you better believe it. And near the bottom, the article goes on. Speaking of Adrian Monk, who is a World Economic Forum's managing director, who was moderating this panel, Monk said that CNN was part of the strategy to own the narrative. CNN is both an organization that's trying to make sense of the world and trying to establish the facts. It's also part of a political war on who owns the narrative, he said. Now, I would dare say the last line of that is the most irrefutable, truthful thing in this article, that CNN is also a part of a political war on who owns the narrative. Now, it's not a war for who can express the truest form of fact, who can express the most truth. No, they call it what it is, a political war on who owns the narrative. The way my mind works, I look at, there's a big distinction. There's the narrative and then there's truth. And they're not necessarily integrated all the time. Oftentimes there's a Grand Canyon gap between the narrative and truth. And as CNN is part of the strategy to own the narrative, that might suggest they're not part of the strategy to have effective journalism, trying to uncover truth and bring facts to their viewers, but maybe owning the narrative is just the opposite. Cover up inconvenient facts, cover up inconvenient truths, while only expressing the narrative that you control. So, short video, I think a lot of questions are raised. I think my eyebrows are raised. I can certainly make a lot of assumptions, much like I'm sure you can, about why they want to own the narrative, all the questions I ask, like is it about narrative, is it about truth? I can make my assumptions about the answer, and if I'm being as truthful as I can and not just succumbing to the narrative that the UN, World Economic Forum, CNN are bad fearmongers who don't care about truth, only want to control the narrative. If I'm divorcing myself from that, I have to acknowledge my assumptions aren't necessarily correct, even though I can make those assumptions. And though they might be correct, I think what's most important here in this discussion with you is to raise these questions. Maybe we don't have an exact answer. We have our assumptions, and maybe some of those are very true, and we don't know for sure. Our assumptions would want us to believe they're true. But what we know for sure, I think the purest form of truth here is there's questions that deserve to be asked about why the UN, why the World Economic Forum, why CNN is so concerned about the narrative, owning the narrative, while purporting that they own the science. To me, that's discrediting information that brings up these questions in my mind. And I think the path of awakening, it's far more important to ask questions rather than to have certainty about other people's answers or even certainty about our own answers and our own assumptions. So with that said, my friend, these are the questions of the day. Here, as the UN explains to the World Economic Forum how they partner with tech platforms to not only own the narrative, but also how they own the science. I hope this has given you something to think about, my beautiful friend. Stay tuned next time while we explore some more facts, fiction, hypocrisies, lies, corruption, maybe even some truth accidentally expressed by tyrants. I don't know. But until next time, my friend, thank you for being a part of this channel. It means the world to me, you being a part of these more sincere conversations that we have so we can help clear away the fog in our minds, clear away the fog of mass formation psychosis so we can better access our own miraculous minds, do our own critical thinking, and have a better connection to the North Star compass of our truth in the direction of our own heart. That's what's most important about being on the awakened path, in my opinion. But that's just my narrative, which I don't own. Appreciate you. Stay free, my friend.